All right, is your SCM 101B exam coming up? Let's cut right to the chase. In the next few minutes, we're going to break down the entire procurement module into the key concepts you absolutely have to know to pass. No fluff. Let's get into it. So here's our game plan for acing that exam. We'll start with the basic definition, then get into that classic confusion between procurement and purchasing. After that, we'll cover the strategic stuff, like picking suppliers and the whole make or buy dilemma. We'll wrap up with how to actually measure if you're doing a good job. If you follow along, you'll have all this locked in.
First up, what even is procurement? You hear it all the time. The textbooks call it the backbone of a business, and honestly, for once, they're not exaggerating. Let's dig into why that's so true.
See those two words? Consistently available? That's everything. Procurement isn't just about, shopping for stuff. It's the strategic engine that makes sure a company has exactly what it needs to run, without any interruptions, day in and day out.
Now, the most important word to remember here is process. Procurement is not a one-and-done event. It's this whole life cycle. It starts way before any money changes hands, with planning and sourcing. Then you get into the negotiating and the actual purchase. And this is crucial, it continues long after the deal is done by managing those supplier relationships. It's kind of like dating, getting married, and then actually working on the relationship, not just a single transaction.
Okay, pay really close attention here, because this is almost guaranteed to pop up on your exam. Telling the difference between procurement and purchasing is a fundamental concept, but so many people get them mixed up. Let's make sure you're not one of them.
And this lays it out perfectly. Think of procurement as the strategic, long-term brain. It's proactive. It's looking ahead, building relationships, hammering out big contracts. Purchasing, on the other hand, is the operational arm. It's reactive and transactional. It's the act of placing the order, creating the PO, and paying the bill.
So if you remember only one thing from this section, let it be this. Purchasing is just one piece of the giant procurement puzzle. Procurement is the whole chess match. Purchasing is just one of the moves. Okay, so if procurement is all about strategy, a huge piece of that strategy is picking the right teammates. So how does a company go from this huge, overwhelming list of potential suppliers down to a small group they can really trust? Let's walk through that process. Think of this diagram right here as your roadmap for the exam. It shows you the entire journey, from that initial Google search all the way to checking in on their performance a year later. It's really a cycle of constant improvement that's all about minimizing your risk and getting the most value. Let's break it down. You start with pre-selection, basically casting a wide net. Then you narrow it down in the evaluation stage, where you really dig in, maybe even visit their factories. Step 3, compliance, is the big filter. Do they meet your non-negotiables, like quality certifications? Only the ones who pass that get to final selection, where you check their financials and get that contract signed. But look, it doesn't just stop there. It's a loop. That last step, performance measurement, is ongoing. It makes sure they keep delivering on their promises.
And what are you looking for during this whole process? For your exam, please remember this. The lowest price is almost never the best choice. A truly great supplier is a partner. They need the technical skills, sure, but they also need to be financially stable so they don't disappear on you. And they have to have the capacity to grow as you grow. It's about the total cost over the long haul, not just the cheap price tag today.
Now, let's talk about one of the biggest decisions a company can possibly make. It's a classic strategic dilemma in procurement. Should we make this thing ourselves, or should we just buy it from someone else? This is the make or buy decision.
To make this really sink in, just think about a car company. They build engines, they build the car's body, but what about the tires? Should they really build a whole new factory just to make tires, or should they buy them from a specialist, like Michelin or Goodyear? Let's explore both sides of that argument. So a company might choose to make its own tires if, say, they invented some revolutionary new tire design and wanted to keep it super secret. Or maybe they just want absolute total control over the quality. Or hey, maybe they just have an empty part of a factory sitting around. It all really boils down to control, capability, and protecting your special sauce. But the arguments to just buy the tires are often way more convincing. Think about it. A company like Michelin has been doing this for a century. They have massive factories and huge R&D budgets. They can simply make better tires for a lower cost than a car company ever could. It lets the car company focus on what it does best, building cars. Plus, you get a branding boost, right? People trust a name like Goodyear on their car. This decision is all about cost, expertise, and strategic focus.
So you've set your strategy, you've picked your suppliers, you've made your make or buy calls, but how do you know if any of it is actually working?
How do you know if you're winning?
Well, that's where your KPIs, your key performance indicators, come into play. This is your scorecard.
This table right here is pure exam gold. Let's run through it. For purchase price variance, or PPV, a negative number is actually great. It means you paid less than you planned to. For spend under management, you want that percentage to be as high as possible. That means you have control over your company's spending. And for things like disputed invoices or emergency buys, you want those numbers to be as low as possible. That's proof that your suppliers are reliable and your planning is solid.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground. Let's bring it all home. We're going to do a rapid-fire review of the absolute must-know concepts you need to have locked in for your exam. First, procurement is the big-picture strategy. Purchasing is the day-to-day operational task that makes that strategy happen. Second, when you're picking a supplier, you have to look beyond the price. It's about the total value, the quality, the reliability, the partnership, not just who's cheapest.
Third, that make or buy decision is always a balancing act. You're constantly weighing the cost of buying something against your need for control and what you're actually capable of doing in-house.
And finally, none of this works in a vacuum. It's all built on strong supplier relationship management. When you invest in your suppliers, you reduce risk and create more value for everyone in the long run.
So I'll leave you with this question to really think about. It goes beyond the textbook and gets you thinking strategically. Knowing the answer to this is what separates a good procurement manager from a truly great one. If you can answer that, you'll be more than ready for your exam. Good luck.